As a result of the multiple media requests, the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security issued a statement, and I'm holding said statement. And our next guest, Scott Cepicky, was nice enough to print me out a copy. I had one on my computer, but I thank you for this, Mr. Cepicky. Thank you so much. Hello, Scott, by the way.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
It's an interesting day.
We're going to have fun. I'm going to read a little of this because I think it's important that we kind of establish where they are on this, and we'll get some perspective from Representative Cepicky. If you have any questions or comments, thoughts, 615-737-9986. At the request of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the Tennessee Highway Patrol continues to support a coordinated public safety effort focused on traffic enforcement. THP's role is to observe driving behavior and conduct lawful stops based on violation of Tennessee traffic law. To date, preliminary results of this operation resulted in 369 stops for observed traffic violations. These include hazardous moving violations, 2 DUI arrests, 1 child endangerment arrest, 1 felony evading arrest, 2 drug arrests, 4 felony wanted persons, and 1 motorist assist. During the operation, ICE detained 94 individuals for further investigation and transport. According to ICE, this includes a convicted child sex predator, I should say, and a known Tren de Aragua gang member. Several other encounters involved suspected gang members, including Tren de Aragua affiliates, and led to the recovery of illegal drugs and firearms, taking dangerous elements off the street and making Tennessee safer. The memorandum continues. Troopers continue to follow Tennessee Code annotated 7-68-105. In cases where individuals were found to be in the country illegally, those matters were handled separately by ICE in accordance with federal law.
Matt, that's the bill you talked about.
Yeah, that's the
House bill.
House Bill 2124.
It's now Tennessee Code.
THP's role is to enforce Tennessee traffic laws fairly and consistently, and our troopers continue to make lawful stops based solely on traffic infractions in an effort to keep Tennesseans safe. We do not enter neighborhoods or stop vehicles based on who someone is. We stop based on what they do behind the wheel. During this operation, less than 10 troopers were assigned to the operation. THP enforced Tennessee traffic laws related to hazardous moving violations as we are required to do under state law. Immigration matters were handled separately by ICE under federal authority. That from the Department of Safety and Homeland Security. And with that, we welcome officially Scott Cepicky into the studio with us to talk about this matter. Just give me from 50,000 feet, your thoughts on all of this.
Well, I think what you're seeing is the Tennessee Highway Patrol doing the job that is tasked to them by the General Assembly and Tennessee Code annotated. I think they have partnered with ICE, working with the Trump administration to start to rid our communities of people that are here either undocumented or illegally, getting guns, drugs, DUI offenders off the streets, making our streets safer for those who are driving around and making sure our communities are safer. And then I see on the other side, I see my colleagues across the aisle are making false accusations and statements about what is really going on here. I see the mayor of Nashville looking like he's siding with the criminals who the Tennessee Highway Patrol and ICE are trying to remove from our streets and our communities. And so I've been listening to this argument since it's happened. And the one thing I want everybody to know is this initial interdiction, Matt, was a Saturday night starting at 10 p.m. and lasting till 5 in the morning. Mm. It wasn't during normal rush hour. It wasn't people going to church. It was at the time of the night when most of these DUIs and these offenses are taking place.
Where folks are either driving home from their activities of the evening, and if they're doing so legally, maybe they get a ticket, maybe they get a warning, and they go about their way.
Because the troopers had the discretion. Now, I also presented you information from the Tennessean that had a 3-month prior study looking at undocumented people in the state of Tennessee that were that were receiving some type of citation or ticket or committed a crime. Mm-hmm. And what the Tennessean has shown, Vivian Jones has shown, is that the main emphasis of all of this activity was in Davidson County. Now, shocker there, Davidson County. Now, what were the people arrested for? Well, the majority of offenses, this is from the Tennessean article, The majority of offenses were driving infractions, the most common being DUI. I think we can all agree that we want to get people off the roads who are driving under the influence.
Obviously.
Or driving without a license, or traffic violations, or driving on a suspended or revoked license. I think these are all things that we want our law enforcement to do. So I seem, and I get hit with this all the time from my colleagues across the aisle. And you heard it from the mayor. Oh, well, the Republicans are gaslighting you. Well, let me tell you something. The Democrats right now are gaslighting the communities in the state of Tennessee, especially in Davidson County, that this was an operation that was set up to make sure that Tennessee Highway Patrol was doing their job. And the House bill that you mentioned in the report, TCA Code 768-105, requires law enforcement to notify ICE or federal authorities on someone that may be here undocumented.
So I want to step back to when this law was passed.
Yes.
During that time, there was a lot of frustration amongst our listening audience and amongst the state of Tennessee, our residents. And that frustration was primarily focused on the Biden administration and their refusal to do anything about what we recognized was the growing problem of illegal alien activity.
Correct.
And repeatedly, I would get asked the question, and I would answer it repeatedly. And people didn't like the answer. It was like, why doesn't the Tennessee Highway Patrol do more? Why doesn't the local sheriff's deputies do more? Why don't the local authorities do more? Well, you guys in the General Assembly gave them the ability, not just the ability, but authorized and required that they do more.
Correct.
But consistently I said, they get to a point where they have to hand these offenders, they can work the DUIs and they can work the traffic violations.
Correct.
They cannot work the immigration violations.
It's turned over.
They have to turn that over. And unfortunately, the American people, and we can talk about why all this happened in 2020.
Right.
But the guy that had the keys to that immigration kingdom wasn't doing anything with them.
That's correct.
He refused. And these immigration and customs enforcement agents were just as frustrated as anybody that they were not given the full authority to do what they could do. Now they are.
Correct.
And this is what it looks like when state officials and federal officials are acting in coordination with one another per the authority that they have to act on the offenses.
That's correct. They're using the data that is presented to them through the traffic stops, through the DUIs, to know which areas are heavy in these traffic violations. You look back at, and you talk about immigration, right? And we know this is a federal issue, but you go back and look at the data from Homeland Security and Border Patrol. In October of 24, there were 218,000 illegal crossings in October of 24. In March, it was down to 2,100. 2,100.
It's like less than 1%.
You can't even see it. It is incredible. So now we have the Trump administration has secured the border. We are closed for business when it comes to illegal immigration. Now we've put the resources of ICE and immigration to work in our cities where the Biden administration, remember the buses, remember the airplane rides, has distributed these individuals throughout the whole country.
Now, the folks like, I use Afton as an example because she was on with Chad today, but, our friends on the left, they want to deal with emotions. They want to talk about disruption of families and all of these types of things. When you get hit with this, how do you respond?
Well, I respond with the facts. I respond with what's happening in our communities, Matt. People want safe communities. You cannot have safe communities when you got Tren de Aragua gang members walking around with guns, distributing drugs to our kids. We're fighting a battle here, Matt. Do you know that in the state of Tennessee, over the last 2 years, we've added over 200 state troopers to Tennessee for drug interdiction, human trafficking, sex trafficking, gang violence. This is a serious issue that we're trying to tackle, and to have people that come on this radio station or in the press and make flippant comments about our law enforcement agents.
You mentioned something, and you caught some of the conversation, and I'm not at all, I don't want anybody to think that I'm faulting Chad.
No.
Chad was bringing good information, but Afton said something. You said that she was talking about a mother and her kid.
Yeah. So if we all remember the context of these interdictions, it was from 10 p.m. on a Saturday night to 5 in the morning on a Sunday, and said that a mother and her children were pulled over and apprehended by THP on their way to school. What? Now,
where were they going to school?
I'm one of the chairman of education. If there's a K through 12 school open in Tennessee,
they deserve an award.
I'd like to know what they're doing.
They're getting
at 4 in the morning.
Cepicky, they're doing what you they're doing extra recess.
Yeah, tutoring.
I didn't even think about that.
No.
All of these wonderful folks are getting apprehended. I mean, and look, if you just got off work and you got okay, fine, that's all well and good, but it's still you got to have documentation.
If you did not violate the traffic laws, right? Nobody was pulling you over.
Right.
If you violated the traffic laws, the trooper was going to come up and say, here's what you did. I need your driver's license and registration. If you can't provide that, then another conversation happens. And if they find out through technology, we all have computers in the police cars now. If they find out that person may not be here legally, they turn them over to ICE as per state law, and ICE handles the situation after that.
So we've got a couple of folks on the line. If you have any questions of our Representative Scott Cepicky and the Matt Murphy Show, by all means, present those. I've got a couple of folks asking some questions on the super text line. We'll get to those in a minute as well. I do want to remind everybody, if you want to see our man in person, you can see Representative Cepicky along with Senator Joey Hensley, Senator Jack Johnson, Representative Gino Bulso, Representative Jake McCalman, and Representative Lee Reeves. Man, we get like 2 or 3 more. We have a quorum.
Oh, be careful.
That is this Saturday. I will be the, as they say, master of ceremonies at the legislative wrap-up Saturday at 8:30 in the morning at Big Bad Breakfast in Spring Hill. Mm-hmm. Don't confuse the Big Bad Breakfast in Franklin with the one in Spring Hill. We're in Spring Hill. Type in Big Bad Breakfast Spring Hill. Be there early, about 8:30. Have some breakfast. It is sponsored by AFP, Americans for Prosperity, and 6 different representatives / senators will be there. I will say one thing and get out of the way. My one thing will be like, how'd you think the session went? And then let y'all roll. But I'm excited about it. Some good breakfast, some good fellowship, sure. And should be a big time.
Sure.
Let's talk about the negative impact real quick before we get to calls. Our friends on the left want to talk about, how negative this is for families, family separation. Well, every time somebody breaks the law and they get arrested as a result, there's a family separation. That's no reason not to follow the law.
Correct.
But they rarely talk about the cost on the Tennessean taxpayer for individuals to be here illegally. And I know you've got some data on that.
I do. I'm going to give everybody indigestion here right now, so I apologize. So we have a report here that you have a copy of from the Tennessee District Attorney General's Conference in 2024. It's the immigration report in 2024 of where we are. This is 4 years of the Biden administration of where we are in Tennessee. Average cost to Tennesseans per illegal alien here in the state of Tennessee, $4,456. 2,719 reports of illegals charged with crimes in Tennessee, including 11 homicides, from just October 1st to December 31st of 2024, 3 months. 3 months. 971 million total cost of illegal aliens to Tennessee in 2023 alone.
It's almost $1 billion.
$1 billion. And then 17,713. Now, this is one that's very troubling to me. Unaccompanied alien children taken into custody and released to a sponsor in Tennessee between 21 and 24. That's the Biden administration saying, who wants to claim this child? And Matt Murphy comes and says, I'll take him. And then that's the last we hear of them.
And we don't know who those people are, what they want with these kids, what they're doing with these kids.
And that's why we have the Tennessee Highway Patrol with 200 plus more troopers looking for the human trafficking going on in Tennessee.
I mean, so there is a monetary and there is a human cost to all of this.
Yes.
And, you and I were talking off air, and before we get to some of these calls, I want to address this side of it because I understand that this situation has gone on a lot longer than the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, a lot longer than the Biden administration. Do you agree? I think you do with my analogy that, I talked about the leaves and as they compact and you got to get down and you got to deal with the situation. At some point, you got to figure out what you're going to leave alone, what has become kind of embedded in the soil. Right now, we're in the beginning stages. We've gotten the border, relatively speaking, secure, thanks to the Trump administration. And now we're finding those elements amongst illegal aliens, not even those that have been here a long, long time, that have embedded themselves into the communities, that aren't violating any other laws. We're talking about individuals that are criminal lawbreakers beyond their illegal status.
Correct.
That's what we're dealing with, in my opinion, right now.
That's correct. We first of all, we all have to acknowledge that coming across the border illegally is illegal. That's the first thing. So you've committed a crime
100%.
right there. Number two is, are you coming here to work and disappear and just work, right? Or are you coming here to do other things of nefarious intentions? And that's what the THP is telling us, is they're arresting people that are here undocumented and they have guns or they have drugs. Well, let me tell you something. The guns and the drugs are not necessarily for them. They could be for other people.
And why wouldn't our good friend Freddie O'Connell, the mayor of Nashville, applaud getting illegal guns off the... I thought he didn't like illegal guns.
Matt, I don't get it, right? Why would you want those in your communities? Why would anybody want those in your communities? People that are doing bad things with guns, that are selling drugs, that are trafficking people. Why in the world, Freddie, would you want those people in your city?
Well, one of these individuals that was arrested as a Tren de Aragua gang member. One was a convicted child sex predator. And I directly asked Freddie O'Connell on the X machine, are these the type of people you're heartbroken over? Or are those okay? Or is it everybody? I mean, and of course, no response. The General Assembly took action. We mentioned this bill that you guys passed last year, or I guess 2024, that gives not only the ability, because local authorities always have the ability to communicate with the federal authorities. This creates a requirement that if you see individuals here illegally, you contact the appropriate federal authorities.
Correct.
And now, thankfully, those federal authorities are under the umbrella of the Trump administration, and they're actually doing something.
With the people that we refer.
With the people that we refer. What else has the General Assembly done with regard to illegal immigration?
Well, first of all, we enhanced state-issued identification standards to distinguish between a citizen and a non-citizen, so that they're going to have to take different driver's licenses. We strengthened sanctuary city ban by imposing now a Class E felony charge on local officials who adopt or maintain sanctuary city policies in violation of state law. That was House Bill 6001. So, Freddie, if you're listening, be careful about issuing the word sanctuary. Created a felony.
He has been, by the way.
Very careful.
He's towed the line. I've noticed that.
Created a felony offense for smuggling and trafficking illegal immigrants. Increased accountability for organizations housing criminal illegal immigrants. And then invalidated out-of-state driver's licenses issued to illegals. We're serious about this.
Speaking, and I'm being serious when I ask you this. You got your real ID yet?
No, I have a passport.
Oh, so you'll use that? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I have a passport.
I mean, I have a passport too, but I have a real ID. I got one when
Really?
Well, why not?
They gave it to you?
Oh, yeah.
From Alabama?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Our standards must be lowering.
Well, that was a few years ago. I think y'all have probably strengthened them
Alabama and a Georgia fan. Wow.
I know.
The worst of both worlds.
I can't imagine why they're letting me stay here. Thomas is next with a question about illegal cost. Hello, Thomas. Welcome in.
Hey, appreciate you and what y'all doing.
Yes, sir.
Hey, my question is, the judges, the ones that got moved over to the other country, brought back for due process, and the illegals that have accidents with criminal homicide, don't they get a lawyer, and who in the heck's paying for it, and why are they have due process?
Why do illegals have due process?
Yeah.
Because of the 14th Amendment and the 5th Amendment.
Correct.
The 14th, just read the 14th, Thomas. It should answer your question. So the 14th Amendment applies to all persons in the United States of America, not all citizens.
Correct.
And they use that language, on purpose.
That was looked at by the Supreme Court.
And by the way, Thomas, to understand something, the due process that is owed to an American citizen is not the same.
It's different.
Right? The key word when you talk about due process is due. What process is due?
Oh.
You know what I mean? And here's what we're talking about, Thomas. You know what due process really is? Hey, are you here legally? Did you come legally? And if the answer to that is no, the next question is going to be about where you came from, because that's where we're going to send you back.
But if they bring them back over, the courts has to come back over to go on trial to find out and prove they're innocent.
There's no trial. What trial?
Well, I don't mean trial. I mean for them to say prove whether or not they're, illegal or not.
Now, they get their hearing on the front end, Thomas.
Very quickly.
And there is no appeal.
Oh, okay.
And then you get the bus ride over the border.
Right.
All right. Well, appreciate what y'all doing.
Well, absolutely. No, I appreciate you. As far as costs go, we're monitoring the city of Nashville because I'm just there's a lot of private organizations that have thrown money around in terms of offering legal defense. That is their right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a matter of your freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Money amounts to that. But I'm watching Nashville because I don't want any of these tax dollars, because Freddie was asked that question about whether the city was going to give money to some of these funds that are available to individuals. And look, these individuals, you can have your hearing, you have your due process, that's fine. But our tax dollars shouldn't be going toward that.
Well, when you have data from the Biden administration that you came across the border illegally, and they have already admitted that you're across the border illegally, and they have that documented, there's your court. I mean, the Biden administration through ICE and immigration has already realized that this person's here illegally, but they let them go. Well, guess what? We are rounding them back up and saying you have to go back across the border, and there's a process. Now, you've talked about earlier, that process probably needs to be looked at and make more efficiently so that people don't have to spend years waiting to come in who want to contribute to our society. We have to look at that. But that's a federal issue with the senators and the congressmen that they need to address that. Our job is to make our streets safer.
Well, and we're moving the ball forward in terms of what I think the process has to be, right? Mm-hmm. You gotta protect your borders first and foremost. Mm-hmm. And for those Johnny-come-latelys that have been here just a short amount of time, that are committing acts against our laws, we need to get those folks out of here and get them back to their countries of origin immediately. Mm-hmm. Do they have a hearing? Sure, they'll have a hearing. But those, it's funny, we talk about due process, and that's why I mentioned this to Thomas. Due process means, well, what is due to you? Well, I'm accusing you of coming into the country not having appropriate documentation. So if you can't demonstrate to me that you have appropriate documentation, then you're going to get a hearing in front of a judge. The judge is going to find out if you have appropriate documentation, and that could involve asylum claim. There's a lot of different ways that you can stay here. But if you don't have it, then you go home.
Go home.
That's your due process.
That's it. And start the process again and come back.
That's right. Ray is next up in Lynchburg. Ray, thank you for your call. How are you?
Fine, sir. How you doing?
Doing great, Ray.
I love the gentleman you got on your show today.
Well, that makes one of us, Ray. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm just trying to stay away from you being a Georgia fan.
Forgive me. That's proof that not everybody's perfect, Ray.
There you go. I want to personally, and from my friends and family, thank the Tennessee Highway Patrol in doing their job. Mm-hmm. And I hope all the police departments and sheriff's departments throughout the state would do the same thing. They have to have this and they have to have that. Well, what about all the people they've killed by
fentanyl?
Fentanyl and murder. But fortunately, we live in a state that, and I'm proud to be one, bunch of rednecks. So, you don't want to mess with a bunch of rednecks. So
I agree with you there. We're all rednecks, Ray.
Yeah, I know. I love it. I'm proud of it.
Ray, thank you. I don't think Cepicky's a redneck, but we're going to get him one of these days.
Yeah. We'll give him an honorary.
Honorary.
You know, Ray, that's pretty good. You know what, Cepicky, the day that you get honorary redneck status,
I've arrived.
You've arrived in Tennessee, baby. You've arrived. John in Lawrenceburg, by the way, who is one of my best listeners.
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things we did this year, Matt, was to help with the cost of local law enforcement dealing with these illegal, undocumented people here. Was there's cost associated with this of detaining them at the local level.
Mm-hmm.
We provided grants to the local law enforcement to be able to pull down to help offset those costs. So we recognize that there's cost to be shared across the state of Tennessee, but we're trying to use the funds from the General Assembly to make that happen.
So something you said, and I've referenced 2124, the law that creates that requirement. Someone asked, and I've lost the question, but I have the spirit of it. So the mayor, Freddie O'Connell, and many of our leftist Metro councilors are, out here, and they want everybody to know no Metro Nashville police officers were involved in any of this. And I get that. But does this law not create a requirement that the Metro Nashville police, when they encounter an individual that they determine to be in the country illegally, that they contact the federal authorities?
It is state law. Period.
So if they're not doing that, if they're actively not doing that, then they're violating state law.
That's correct.
That's something that Freddie ought to look at as well.
This all started even before that law was enacted. Remember, we put Tennessee Homeland Security agents in every county. And the reason why was to link everybody together. All of the documents, TBI's information. Remember, we had the issues with the rape kits, right? Not getting done and that information being shared. Homeland Security of Tennessee, not federal Homeland Security, but Homeland of Tennessee is supposed to liaison between all the different law enforcement agencies to share information.
Right.
So when someone pulls somebody over in Dyersburg, they can access the information that this person might have been arrested in Nashville. To create destroy those boundaries and make sure that everybody's sharing information, because the border has come to Tennessee. And now we're trying to fix it.
Well, and that is, I'm sorry, guys, to interject, but
it felt like God chiming in there.
But I mean, I think that what this is showing me is that this very careful effort by the mayor's office to try to show that Metro officers were in no way involved in these detainments, because if they were, then that possibly puts them at odds with the state law.
Right. If they admit that they
do
encounter illegal aliens and they don't do anything with those encounters, then they are in violation of state law.
Right. TCA code 768105.
So what I want to know is, does Chief John Drake or does somewhere in the mayor's office, are the Metro Nashville police getting some sort of interaction marching orders in terms of how they interact with individuals that they pull over? Are they told not to ask certain questions so as not to involve themselves with the possibility of having to turn someone over, or are they? So
how about this question? How about this? Chief Drake, the Tennessean, had this article came out that talked about the problems in Davidson County. Are you willing to partner with ICE agents with your department and do these interventions across the state, across the city?
I think it's a legitimate question.
Are you willing to do it? Because if you are, ICE will help your officers.
How do Metro Nashville police officers interact with individuals in such a way where they ascertain who they are, what their identity is, without, if their goal is to not interact in such a way where they would be required to turn these people over to ICE, I want to know how that works.
Then maybe that's why there's people here that shouldn't be here with guns and drugs.
Maybe so.
Maybe that's the answer.
Maybe so.
And our THP has done the interventions and interdictions to find those individuals that maybe somebody's being told not to worry about.
Sally says what we need is a Judge Dredd Border Patrol and State Troopers. Well, Sally, I don't, I wouldn't suggest that we need judge jury and executioner on the streets. That's what a judge in good standing's for. That's why, and that's one of the reasons why, if you're pulled over and someone wants your documentation, you don't have any, but you say, no, well, I've got an asylum claim pending. Okay. Well, a judge is going to figure that out.
Well, that'll also be in the computer that they can access immediately and say, "Oh yes, you're right."
And in some cases, you might be allowed to go on your merry way if they can document that on the scene.
And by the way, if THP comes up to your car for a traffic stop, and you say license and registration, and you give them that, and they come back and say, "Thank you very much, have a nice day," consider it a lucky day. Or they can write you a warning, or they can write you a citation.
Right.
They don't have to do that. They
have discretion.
They use their discretion.
I think I can slide one more in here. Jim is in Murfreesboro. Jim, you're on with Scott Cepicky and Matt Murphy. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for your service. I appreciate your radio show.
Thank you.
Nashville, Tennessee has a catch and release program basically when it comes to arresting people. I know 2 officers from Nashville, and one of them quit the force because they made doing their job entirely too difficult. They would arrest people, bring them in, and then get in trouble for arresting people for breaking the law and making their job impossible to do. And I don't see how more police stations in Nashville is going to improve that. If they let the police officers do their job, crime would go way down in Nashville. But they do.
It brings up an excellent point that Scott and I were talking about just before we came back, Jim. And I'm time limited. I apologize for interrupting you, but I wonder where Chief John Drake is on all this. Honestly.
Like I said, I'm sure ICE Immigration would be happy to work with Chief Drake and do it right along with his officers and doing interdictions, because the Attorney General's Conference said the main issue is Davidson County.
Because what I hear politicians like Freddie O'Connell telling us, hey, there's no Metro Nashville police officers involved in this. My question is, why not?
Why not?
Why aren't they involved? I mean, explain to me why the Metro Nashville police would not be involved in communicating with ICE if they discover an illegal alien on the streets of Nashville, Tennessee.
That might have guns or drugs.
That might have guns or drugs, or engaged in some other
Tren de Aragua, gang
criminal
violence.
activity. Great stuff, Scott. Thank
pleasure.
you. Normally Scott and I are talking about education, General Assembly stuff. This is good stuff, and I appreciate the information that you provided this hour.
There you go.